and sanitation. Ghana today is the 7th dirtiest country in the world, according to the Joint Monitoring Committee of UNICEF and WHO. The PNC sees waste as an incredible source or resource which we shall exploit to add value and generate jobs and ensure cleanliness and environmental sustainability. Investment in efficient waste management infrastructure will lead to clean energy, compost to boost environmentally friendly agriculture, and save foreign exchange by avoiding or reducing importation of chemical fertilizers. There are other products that can be obtained from municipal waste that adds more meaning to waste as a huge resource and no more a nuisance. The issue of waste can be tackled in 3 dimensions, namely generation, collection, and disposal. At the generation level, a PNC government will levy entities whose activities lead to production of waste. The essence is to encourage producers to adopt environmentally efficient production techniques and to produce goods that are friendly to the environment. The second dimension, that is collection. At this level, a PNC government will do the following. 1, provide incentives for more private participation in waste collection. 2, widen and intensify the scope of the National Bin Program with emphasis on waste separation by households and commercial entities. In India, this gave some people work to separate the waste into biodegradable and not non-biodegradable. And indeed, some people got busy doing that. Introduce a national sanitation guards program that will police our environment to ensure enhanced sanitation. More importantly, we will cause to be passed a National Sanitation Act with deterring sanctions. I see people throw things about, and I always said, if somebody arrested them and they were prosecuted, maybe next time they won't do it. Employment and the youth. Unemployment, and particularly youth unemployment, is rising at a very fear-provoking pace. Over 65% of the unemployed in Ghana fall within the youth bracket. The youth, including graduates, have been excluded in the socio-economic transformation of the country. The new force, as advocated by the PNC, is a monumental asset. This young group, they are an asset. But if you have your assets and you don't look after them, they degrade or devalue, for sure. A PNC government will also set up a National Labor Office to provide accurate and up-to-date statistics on labor. There are no reliable data in this direction, which makes it difficult to even plan. In saying this, we are aware of the support given to the Ghana Statistical Service to undertake some study in this regard. But our contention is that this is not enough, and more so, there is so much on the plate of the service to be able to continue providing up-to-date data on labor at any point in time. The Labor Office will also be responsible for providing employment information to the public, as well as offer career and employment guidance and counseling to those who wish to enter the labor market. A PNC government will also, as we have said before, erect growth poles around which major cottage industries will evolve. For example, the border towns. You can take one at Elobo as a growth pole, for example, and you should be able to establish in that town a market system for Ghana for exportable products. For example, we have timber, and we can produce furniture. So at a market such as at the border, what you are going to do is sell what we have. This growth polls also identifies areas. For example, areas where you may set up a factory. Like we had the cotton factory in the Tumu, because in that area, they farm cotton. So it becomes a catchment area for people in that area from moving into the cities and clogging and creating slums. So this idea of growth poles is to identify areas where you can put strategically factories that will keep the people from coming down to Accra and Kumasi. Let's look at education and training. Education and training will be made more functional and relevant for the world of work. Education will broaden and deepen innovation, creativity, and problem-solving skills. This will be driven by science and technology and will be based on evidence. Building a national innovation culture will be a critical aspect of the PNC educational system. To this end, a PNC government will pursue an accelerated science and technology program. This will see the establishment of a national science and technology village in the nature of the Silicon Valley of the USA. And national service personnel, before they join the service, will be encouraged to bring their projects or proposals for viable job creation for themselves and others. Students and researchers alike with innovative ideas and great potential will be selected to go to this village. They will be supported and guided to work on their innovations, and their inputs will also be promoted by government. Related to this is the promise that a PNC government will start a program of building an interface between industry and entrepreneurs on the one hand, and the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research on the other, so that the many inventions and ideas by Ghanaians will begin to see the benefit of implementation. We will establish a research and development fund, R&D, in the national budget. Several years ago, I think 2008, when I last did this, we were talking about 0.03% of GDP for this research and development. I can say categorically, because we don't have research and development fund, the boys in magazine, or the men, Kumasi magazine, they developed a prototype of a car. And guess where it is being developed finally? Abroad, because we don't have the money to support this type of development. Now, the other area we have concern about is accessibility to education is yet another concern of the PNC. Accessibility comes in two forms, physical and financial. We will continue to expand infrastructure at all levels of our educational system. We, as part of our efforts at ensuring affordable education, especially at the tertiary level, will set up a mixed scholarship portfolio scheme. This will contain grants, bursaries, loans for the different categories of students, and funding for this scheme will be 30% of the portion of the annual budget funding amount. That's the oil money we're talking about, allocated to capacity building. Additional resources will be sought from corporate and philanthropic entities. Let me also emphasize that the PNC is still committed to our 2008 manifesto pledge, and indeed the constitutional injunction of a free 12-year elementary education that includes senior high school. This is in our constitution. So if we are not doing it, we are failing ourselves, because we wrote the constitution. Nobody wrote it for us. Teacher motivation is also a key to quality delivery of education, but details of that are captured in our manifesto soon to be launched. Health. We have a comprehensive strategy to revamping the entire health sector. But for the sake of this program, we will focus on the National Health Insurance Scheme. We all know the terrible state of the scheme as it is today. This restructuring will lead to strengthening and expanding to ensure systemic efficiency. In the process, we shall set up an independent health maintenance and monitoring agency to monitor, maintain, and review processes and content of the scheme. Corruption. Ghana is among the world's most corrupt and wasteful nations, and this unenviable position seems to be getting worse and worse by the day. Our search reveals that between US $3 billion and US $4 billion is lost annually through corruption. We have also realized that much has been lost in the past 5 years through manipulation and violation of the Public Procurement Act to offer undue advantages to kith and kin and cronies. Sole sourcing has become the norm, and that is the beginning of the inappropriate manipulation, violations, and corruption. We shall review the Public Procurement Act and ensure transparency and strict compliance with the provisions of the Act. The mode of appointment of management and staff of Public Procurement Authority will be reviewed to ensure quality, neutrality, efficiency, and incorruptibility. We shall decouple the office of the Attorney General and Minister of Justice and make the Attorney General a Director of Public Prosecution to prosecute all those who are looting our monies. We shall also, as part of the fight against corruption, resource agencies such as the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO, the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Justice Emil Short, your organization. I don't know whether when you were there, you were adequately resourced, but believe you me, we will adequately resource it because it's an important part of our national life. Yes. Beyond the institutional reform is also the attitude of leadership. We shall live by example. We have done it before, and we'll do it again. When Dr. Hilaire Leman was removed in the coup d'etat for corruption, I stand here to tell you that none, not a single one of his ministers was convicted for corruption. Even though those days, the courts we had in Ghana, I call them kangaroo courts. But what happened when NDC 1 gave way to MPP? The Minister of Finance, his deputy, Minister of Trade, and some others were convicted for causing financial loss. That's another name for corruption. Energy. The drain on the economy, on business, social services, and national growth and development through energy deficit over the years cannot be underestimated. Companies have collapsed, jobs have been lost, and the economy distressed because of lack of expertise in the management of the energy sector. The solution is not in the knee-jerk power badges which we have seen. Was the promise to Ghanaians 4 years ago an expensive and dubiously acquired power badge? Did you tell Ghanaians that you lack innovative ideas to solve the energy problem? The introduction of the power badges is not just a knee-jerk approach, but a lazy and inconsiderate approach to kill Ghanaians with unbearable tariffs. The PNC will develop a national energy consumption profile, invest in emerging efficient renewable energy options such as solar, waste to energy, wind, and ultra-efficient mini hydro. Communities with the lowest intensity energy consumption derived from the National Energy Commission consumption profile will reduce the burden on the national grid by shifting to efficient renewable energy options such as solar. A municipal waste generation profile, MWGP, will be developed. It will be useful in building waste-to-energy plants in communities with excessive waste generation, such as Accra. This approach will improve the energy mix and promote development through green, reliable, and affordable energy delivery. Oil and gas. The People's National Convention's policy on oil and gas is mounted on 3 frames. 1, institutional arrangements for the management of oil and gas. 2, transparency and accountability. And 3, fiscal sustainability. At the level of institutional arrangement for the management of oil and gas, the PNC will strengthen the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, to facilitate the process of capacity building, public awareness, and transparency. We will create an additional exclusive transparency agency charged with contracts and procurements within the oil and gas sector. The PNC will also strengthen the governing boards of the state-owned enterprises, SOEs, and insulate them from government vested interests so that they can be more effective in their oversight roles. We shall also outsource recruitment by SOEs to reputable and independent recruitment firms to reduce political cronyism. More importantly, we will separate the Attorney General's Department from that of the Ministry of Justice. I've already alluded to that. In respect of transparency and accountability in this sector, the PNC will mandate all public office holders and politically exposed persons to fully declare and publish their assets. This, in particular, will apply to all government appointees, directors, ministers, members of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament. If you are here and you are on that committee, watch out, we are coming, you will declare your assets. Let me digress here a little bit. Ghana has 26 gold mines. Ghana has 0% shares in any of those gold mines. Our parliament divested our interest in those gold mines. We will also mandate that information and public documents, including those related to contracting processes from the oil and gas sector, should be made accessible, whereas those like bidding documents and geological data will require a minimal fee for access. In other words, the others, you get it free. But if you're looking for this, because you may be looking for it to enhance your own business. More so, the issue of beneficial ownership will be addressed by ensuring that companies that seek to bid for public contracts must fully disclose their owners, and false information on beneficial ownership shall be criminalized. We shall also ensure that oil and gas contracts are subject to the Public Procurement Act. At present, the final decision on the award of oil blocks rests with the Minister of Petroleum. That's too much power in one man's hand. We will change this arrangement to ensure transparency. We further will ensure that all funds to and from SOEs must pass through the consolidated fund to allow for parliamentary scrutiny. A PNC government will also ensure the directors and officers of SOEs are individually liable for criminal prosecution in case of suspected malfeasance. This is meant to promote effective transparency and oversight. Finally, there shall be enhanced internal control mechanisms by SOEs by allowing the Public Services Commission to appoint members to the boards of these bodies rather than the president. Ladies and gentlemen, on the issue of fiscal sustainability in the oil and gas sector, a PNC government will draft a Fiscal Responsibility Act that establishes, among others, provisions on budget and expenditure coherence, debt ceiling, that is capping national borrowing to prevent credit excesses that will lower Ghana's credit ratings. We have seen it happen, which in turn forces the use of savings from, for example, the Stabilization Fund and the revision of the tax regime to favor local companies vis-a-vis international corporations. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll also enhance the capacity of the Ghana Revenue Authority to periodically audit international oil and gas corporations to verify if the profit extraction as declared is accurate. Finally, and I think if you're a foreign company and you are being fair with Ghanaians, you shouldn't have fear for this sort of openness. Finally, we shall establish specific oil and gas revenue tax in addition to the existing corporate income tax. This will avoid tax evasion and capital flight through oil and gas corporations. Personal responsibility. Kwame Asari was jailed 30 years in hard labor for stealing a mobile phone, a handbag, a piece of cloth, net value 180 Ghana cedis. Anas Aremyao Anas has shown that our justice is for sale. We have a system where those who loot are held in high esteem. Valdis Dombrovskis, a former prime minister of Latvia, resigned when the roof of a supermarket collapsed, killing 54 people. He said he took political and moral responsibility for the disaster. In Germany, Christian Wolff resigned from high office of president in 2009, put on trial for corruption because his friend was alleged to have paid for his hotel room and his food, total value 700 euros. In the United States of America, President Nixon stepped aside from high office of US president after the Watergate scandal. Even about a month ago, in San Francisco, USA, the police chief for the city resigned as chief when one of his police officers shot and killed a black woman driving a stolen car. It is this kind of taking personal responsibility and abhorring wrongdoing that I'm offering myself as president of Ghana for. In conclusion, the details of the PNC's national strategy can be found in our manifesto. It is at the final validation stage, which will be ready for launch shortly. It is a problem-solving, innovative approach that will mobilize and leverage on the nation's resourcefulness for an accelerated and inclusive growth and sustainable development. Ghanaians are fed up with excuses, empty and unfulfilled promises, incompetence, and lack of dynamic, selfless, visionary leadership. After all, it is our destiny. Working together, Ghana can rise again. Let's go for the PNC. We have a unique and inspiring proposition to transform the fortunes of this country. The new beginnings, the new deal, the new force. The PNC, the new force, and Edward Nasegre Mahama. 3 Sure, new way. Thank you very much.